Hello, welcome back to Bumble Stitches. This is podcast episode number 29 and it's Sunday the 12th of August. How are you all? I hope you're really well and been having a lovely time with all your knitting and crafting. It's great to be back. I think it's about 2 weeks ago that I podcast. It might have been 3, but yeah, I've got some things to show you, some WIPS and one finished object, maybe 2, and just really want to catch up with you all. You can find me obviously here on YouTube, and you can find me on Instagram as Bumble Stitches, and we have a Ravelry group under the groups tab in Ravelry called Bumble Stitches Podcast, which I'd love you to come and join. You can also find me in at my Etsy store, which is Bumble Stitches Store, which is a little bit low on exciting things at the moment, but hopefully as time goes on I'll get some more things added to the shop. So welcome to all you new subscribers. I noticed that a few people have subscribed since the last episode, and it's great to have you on board. And if you've been with me for a long time, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. Now I've got quite a lot of show notes this time round because, well, quite a lot of show notes, a couple of pages of A4, but don't worry. I just want to try and stay on track a little bit more this episode. I felt I was a little bit rambly last time, and yeah, got a little bit carried away. So if I keep looking down at show notes on my desk, I'm just trying to stay on track. Now, I wanted to just mention how grateful I am and how lovely it is to see all the comments that you pop down under the video. And I really appreciate everything that you say, and you're all very kind, and it just makes this whole process worthwhile. It makes it a two-way street, not just me talking at myself in my phone, and it really sort of enriches the whole experience for me and hopefully for you as well. So I went through all the comments on the last video on episode 28, and I've made a few sort of notes, things that I'd like to just sort of reply to, if you like. So there were quite a few comments about, I showed these skeins of yarn that I bought at Fibre East, these 3 beautiful skeins from the Wool Barn, and I asked for some suggestions for a 3-colour shawl, because the pattern that I'd originally bought them for, there wasn't quite enough yardage. So I had some really good suggestions from you all. A couple of people mentioned Slow Curves, which is a new design by Joji Locatelli, which I love, but I think it ideally needs 4 skeins or 4 colour changes, and I don't think I'd have enough yardage here because there's quite a plump finger in here from the Wool Barn. Another nice suggestion was the Goldfish Memory shawl. I'm not quite sure who the designer is on that one. And another one, which was recommended by Marilisa, is the Summer Rain by Vera Valimaki. So I did pop along to Ravelry and have a look at all those designs that were suggested, and the Summer Rain I think is going to be the one that these beautiful skeins become. The yardage is right. I love the design. It looks absolutely perfect for these beautiful yarns, which are on the cashmere sock base by the Wool Barn. So thanks Marilisa for that. That's a really good suggestion. I think this is what these skeins are going to become. Heather commented that she'd been inspired to pick up her drop spindle again after seeing the one that I bought at Fibre East and my little braid of fibre. So I'm really pleased that that's inspired you, Heather, to have a little go at drop spindling again. Lovely Vera commented that I was talking about some Chopel Zalbul yarn that I was knitting some socks in, and she explained that Bunt Gas, which was the colourway, actually means colourful alley in German. So thank you, Vera, for pointing that out. Quite a few people mentioned about the socks because the episode was very sock heavy last time, and Sharon said she was inspired to learn how to make socks. So good for you, Sharon. You'll really enjoy it, and once you get going, be warned, it is highly addictive, but you will never be without something to knit. You'll never be without some lovely yarn to buy, particularly if you just want to treat yourself to that special skein every now and again. And Marion said she'd also learnt to knit socks by the Winwick Mum tutorial, which I was talking about. That was because I'd knitted those stripy West Yorkshire Spinners socks, the pink ones. So she said she'd learnt via that tutorial. So that might be something that you look at, Sharon, to start your sock knitting journey. And I was really thrilled that Christine, who is Wimwick Mum, had watched the podcast and commented as well. I was really quite chuffed about that. So this is what I mean. It's just such a lovely experience when everybody gets involved and shares all your thoughts and comments. It's really lovely. Thank you. So now we've had a little chat about that, and as I said, please do comment below. It's just lovely to hear from you all, and I have opened a general chatter thread in the Ravelry group as well if you want to have a chat over there. It's a little bit quiet at the moment, so you know, don't be shy, let's get a conversation going over there as well, because that's what it's all about for me. I will move on now to my works in progress, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed, if I'm honest. I've got quite a lot of WIPS going on. I think I need to sort of declare war on my WIPS and get some of them into finished objects and off the needles, and try not to cast on so many things. It's really hard though. I've noticed a lot of really lovely patterns cropping up on Ravelry and on Instagram, and obviously you see them on other people's podcasts. So it's getting a little bit out of control. And whilst I do love having lots of things to choose from, everything's getting a little bit of knitting on it at a time, and I don't seem to be progressing very far, which is causing me a little bit of anxiety. Is probably not the right word, but it's just making me mindful that maybe I'd be best to concentrate on a few projects and get big chunks of knitting done rather than a few rows on each. So before I get to the WIPS, actually, let's have a look at my finished object for this week. And I do actually have two finished objects, but I've only got one knitted one. So I'm going to share that with you first. And I have finished my dandelion socks in the beautiful Happy Trails self-striping colourway. That was from Amy at Dandelion and Dogwood. And I couldn't be happy with these. They have turned out so well. I did share last week they were a half finished object. I had one sock and about halfway down the other sock, I think. It wasn't last week, was it? It was last episode, but you guys know what I mean. So they are now finished. So here's the other one. And I'm absolutely thrilled with how they've turned out. The pattern is a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears, and it's the dandelion socks. And I think for self-striping yarn, they're absolutely perfect, really well suited. Now, I mentioned on the last episode that I was a bit concerned that I was going to run out of the matching mini for the because I'd used it obviously for the cuffs, the heels and the toes, and I did end up doing a little bit of jiggery pokery with the blue yarn at the end of the second sock. So I don't know if you can see. So this one here was done completely in the corresponding or coordinating mini. And this one I sort of faded in. I've done a bit of yarn management with the blue in the stripe so that I could start them at the same point, so they would be completely matchy, which is what I was hoping for, and they are. But you can see there's a little bit of a difference here in the toes where I had to mix in some of the blue with the other blue. But I'm really not too concerned about it. It's only if you really study them that you would notice the difference. And I was just really pleased to have got them completely finished and have another pair of socks off the needles and ready to pop into my box of socks. I won't get that out again because you saw it last episode, but I am on track. So you'll be pleased to hear I am on track. This is pair number 8. So these are the August socks done. And I had a little piece of, well, not that little, bit of the gobstopper ball of yarn left. So that will go in for other little sort of scrappy projects and bits and pieces. So that's my finished object for this episode. Try and stay, as always, try and stay tidy. It takes me an age to tidy up after a podcast. I don't know any of you other podcasters out there are the same. It's just, everything just is all over the place, and I have to have a big clean up at the end of the session, but it's all worth it, hopefully. So I will move on to my works in progress now, and I'm going to start with my largest work in progress, or I'm going to call it a current work in progress, because there are some things that are, they're not on the naughty step. They've done nothing wrong, it's just me. It's just because they need sleeves or they need a little bit of seaming, and yeah, it's not really grabbing my attention at the moment. So this is in my lovely sheep bag from Bird Street UK, from lovely Claire. There's a label there. And Bird Street UK is Claire's side of the business, that she makes beautiful project bags, and her husband John is Mr. B of Mr. B's Yarns, so you can find them on Etsy. So in here is living my Deshane sweater, and I'm going to get the bits out. Now we know that the camera doesn't really like this because it's knitted in black yarn and the light goes a bit peculiar when I try and show it to you. So I'll just show the pattern very quickly again. So it's Deshane, it's a Quince & Co pattern with a feather and fan lace detail down the front. It's quite cropped. I'm making mine a bit longer, and I'm yet to decide whether I'm going to put sleeves on it or not, because quite a few of the finished objects on Ravelry are done without sleeves, and I quite like the look, and I think with a little top underneath. So this is the, is it upside down? No. So this is the front, and I'm knitting on the back, and I'm very nearly at the point where I just need to add the hem detail. So yeah, I don't know if you can see me through there. So yeah, it's been quite a lot of knitting, and it's a bigger needles than I'm normally knit with, because these are Chiagu size 5mm, and the yarn is quite, it's more like an Aran sort of weight of yarn. It's the Drops Bell, which I'll just show you, that I got from Wool Warehouse. Very, very good value, and it's a blend of cotton, linen and viscose. It's quite hard on the hands when you're knitting. It's, if you've ever knitted with cotton or linen, it's got no sort of stretch to it as you're knitting, and it does tend to make my hands ache after a little while. So part of me is really gunning to get it finished, and the other part of me is thinking it's making my hands hurt and I don't want to do it anymore. So, but I'm almost there, and I think in saying that it will probably end up with no sleeves, because yeah, I just really want it done. So that will hopefully be done very, very soon. I do have something that I want to cast on the 17th of August, which I'll chat to you about in a little while. So yeah, I've got a self-imposed deadline on this project, so hopefully I can crack on and get it completed. So I'll pop that down there, ready for tidying up later. And I'm going to move on to my next work in progress, which is the beautiful Sweet Bee socks from Jules of So Sweet Violet, her debut sock pattern. And I have completed the first sock, which I've popped on my bunny blocker here. It's not been blocked, and the ends haven't been sewn in yet, but I'm really pleased how these are turning out. So this is Jules's Beanie Toe, and they're toe-up socks, and this was a first for me. I have never knitted toe-up socks before, and I was a little bit apprehensive, felt a bit out of my comfort zone, but Jules has put a tutorial in the pattern, and there's a link to a video tutorial which is brilliant. So I had no trouble at all in getting them started, and they virtually knit themselves after that, because they've got the interest. You've got stripe sections, the pattern sections, more stripes onto this fabby heel, which fits like a dream, and then more striping, lace pattern, another bit of striping, and then finishing off with I did a 1x1 twisted rib. I think that's what's in the pattern. And another first for me was the Judy or Jenny, surprisingly stretchy bind off. So I did that as well, and I'm really, really pleased with how they have turned out. So I will show you the yarn. I haven't cast the second sock on yet, and these are my yarns. Obviously this one I'm using for the stripes, and this is the main body of the sock, and they are, it was a sock set from Which Fibre Company. Oh, there goes the stitch marker. I've got stitch markers everywhere in this house. And the colourway is Belle's Wedding Dress. It was a series of Beauty and the Beast yarns that Which Fibre Company did, I think it was last year, or whenever the film came out, probably, might have been the year before even. So really, really happy with that work in progress, and just need to get the second sock cast on. So we'll move that one out of the way as well. Just pop down here. Make life worse for myself because I should tidy up as I go, kind of, but I just throw it all down on the floor. Anyway, so the next work in progress is another sock, and this is the one that Vera translated the name of the colourway for us. And these are the, well, they're just the vanilla sock really. Let's show you the finished one first instead of faffing around with that one. So this is the first one, and I have actually blocked this because I had quite a few magic loop sort of marks on it, so I thought I'd give it a little block, and just for my own satisfaction to make sure I was going to be happy with the end result before I sort of started the other sock. So I really like the way the colours change. There's obviously a bit of a harsher line here where I just carried on. I didn't do any yarn management, I just thought I'd let it do its thing, but I can live with that because it's still really pretty the way it changes from one colour to the next. So I just did a 1x1 twisted rib. I did 64 stitches on 2.5mm higher sharps. I did a slip stitch heel and just knitted all the way down, and then I added the toe from the dandelion socks that I knitted on these, because I really like the toe on these and the way they fit, so I thought I would start using that in my socks from now on. So really pleased to have a half finished object there. And the second sock is coming along nicely. I've just turned the heel and done the decreases. It's not very pretty showing socks when they're all on. Let me just pop it on the blocker so you can see where it's up to, because it just looks like a big hot mess of needle and cord and everything else. So we'll pop that on there and hopefully it won't look so much of a mess. Here you go. So, and again, I've done no yarn management with this. I just, where that last sock ended, I've just started this next one. So we've gone through the pale sort of yellowy green into the proper green, blue, down onto the heel. Gusset decreases are done, and then next up, I think, it's not really a pretty project at the moment, is it? It's going to go properly into the blue and then back to green again. I don't think I'm going to get any yellow on this sock, as you can see sort of how far I am, but that's fine. I think once they're completely done and blocked, they're going to look quite pretty anyway. And I'm really pleased with the yarn. It's blocked up really nice. It's soft and they're a really nice fit. The yarn, as I mentioned, and I did mention last episode, sorry, is the Chopel Zauber Ball in the Bunt Gas colourway, Colourful Alley. And that's been living in one of my little sock sack project bags, which I'm hoping to get some of these ready for the shop when I learn how to manage my time a little bit better and can actually get some bag making done, which fingers crossed will be soon because I do miss it. So I'm just going to throw these down on the pile. There is another work in progress that has seen a bit of love and is now a half finished object, and these were the Rose City rollers that I was knitting for Emily, which I showed last time, and this is free pattern on Ravelry. Really great for small quantities of yarn that you want to use up. And I'm knitting these from a sock blank. I've got one as a finished object. This is a sock blank from Stranded Dye Works from Amy in the Street Art colourway which I know she isn't, she may still be dyeing this colourway, but I don't think she's doing sock blanks anymore. But it's come out really, really cute. I like the way it's sort of striped here. It's not been blocked, so it's still a bit wiggly squiggly, but I'm really, really pleased, and I think Emily will like them. I have cast on the next one, but it is like a tiny little smidge. I haven't even got to the heel yet. It's just literally this little few rows that I've started, but it's cast on, so that means I will keep picking it up. And the sock blank, again, I shared last time in the street art colourway, and that is all living in my project bag from Mrs. Brown's Bags, Jodie from the Grocery Girls, one that I've had quite a while. One of the first project bags that I bought, actually, which I really, really like, this cool sort of tattoo, knit to live, live to knit sort of tattoo style. I think it's really quite cool. So I think I may have done all the WIPS. Yes, I have done all the WIPS. So let's add those to the pile as well. Now I'm just going to check on my notes, because I mentioned that I wanted to get the Deshane sweater complete, ready for a new cast on the 17th of August. And you may or may not have seen the new design by Libby Johnson of Truly Myrtle, and it's the Floozy cardigan, and it's pretty much all over Instagram at the moment. There's been lots of excitement about the pattern, which has been pre-released so that you can get your yarn ready and get swatching. And there are lots and lots of dyers sharing their kits for this particular cardigan design on Instagram. So lots and lots of excitement about it, and I think it's a fabulous design. So I'm going to show you my yarn choices now. And that is living in this beautiful sweater size project bag that I bought from Willowmane of Mary Celeste Stitches. I love this, the little fireflies. Such a pretty project bag, and it's a great size too. So that's where my Floozy cardigan is going to live. Now, a long time ago, I nearly said in a galaxy far, far away, but a long time ago, I went to Leeds on business, probably well over a year ago, and I went to Bahram U, which is a beautiful yarn shop, and they have their own range of yarns, one of which is the Titus range, and I bought a sweater quantity of their Bramley Baths colourway, which I did share on the podcast, which is this beautiful soft green. And originally I bought it to make the pavement sweater by Vera Valimaki, and I didn't actually sort of get round to doing it at the time, so I popped the yarn in stash, and then I sort of went off the pavement sweater, and then it was going to be Arwen, I think, by Isabel Kramer. Then it was going to be Drift. I can't remember the designer of that one. So it was going to be several different sweaters, and even as recently as about 2 weeks ago, I was going to destash it, and I thought, I'm just not going to knit this yarn, and it's a sweater quantity taking up space, and it's a bit of a waste of money. But then the Floozy cardigan came along, and I thought, oh, this would be perfect. Now it's a 3-colour cardigan. I'm going to show you the printout. Now my printer cartridge was just about to run out when I printed this out, so all this sort of green striping is my printer and not Libby's beautiful design. So you can see it's a 3-colour cardigan with the colour work on the yoke, and I thought the Bramley Baths would be nice for the main body of the cardigan, and I'll show you the contrast that I've chosen in a moment. Now the good thing about this design is it's all done as slip stitches, not stranded colour work, and Libby says you never have more than one colour that you're knitting in any one row, and that really appealed to me. After knitting the Birkin sweater and having some rows with 3 colours in, that was quite an experience, and the thought of doing such a beautiful design as this cardie but with only one colour on the go at any one time was very, very appealing. There's another image of it here which I'll show you. It's in a different colourway. So I think it's just stunning. She also gives you options for doing it as a full length cardie, sort of hip length, cropped, and also different sleeve lengths. So you can do 3/4 length sleeves or full length sleeves. So there's lots and lots of options on this. Okay, so I have got the Bramley Baths, which is the main colourway. And then these are not skeined up yet, but from the same range, the Titus range by Bahram U, I've chosen this beautiful colour here, which is called Rose Window, and then the White Rose as well. So I think these three colours together will look really, really nice, especially with this Rose Window sort of really popping. And I was going to go for, instead of this White Rose here, I was going to go for a soft grey or a soft beige, but I thought, I've heard lots of people with much more expertise on colour work say that you do need to get contrast for the colour work to be effective. So I thought I would go for the White Rose, and it would give much more contrast against this Bramley Baths colourway here. So those are my yarn choices. So I thought I'd be a really good knitter and get a swatch done, and I'm really glad I did. I'm a bit of a fair weather swatcher. Sometimes I do swatch, and sometimes I just steam into the pattern and hope for the best. But I thought I really want to make sure this is a nice finished object and that it fits well and that it's a useful wearable garment at the end of the knitting. So I swatched first of all. This was my first swatch, and I started out with 3.5mm needles as the pattern suggests, and then could see straight away that I wasn't getting gauge. So I dropped down to 3.25mm needles from this little bulb pin upwards, and still wasn't getting gauge. But I blocked it anyway, soaked and blocked it just to be on the safe side. No, so that wasn't right. So I then swatched again to 3mm needles, and I did get gauge for this project, so I'm really happy about that. It does mean I'm going to have to drop down to 2.75mm needles for the ribbed sections for the cuffs and hem and so on, but at least there's not too much knitting of those. But I'm really pleased with the way that the yarn has knitted up, the way it's blocked, the fabric that it's given me, the sort of drape of it, and the way the stitches look, the stitch definition and the softness. Just really, really pleased and excited about it. So the pattern itself is live on the 17th of August, but you can go to Libby's, to the Truly Myrtle Ravelry store and pre-order your pattern, and you'll get all the information on this first section here for swatching and yarn and measurements and all the sort of important stuff before actually casting on the 17th. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be lovely. And so many people seem to be excited about it too, and seem to be getting their yarn ready and getting ready to knit that. So that will be my next big project. And I must just say that the extra 2 skeins that I bought, these 2 skeins here, I ordered them from Wild and Woolly, who are Wild and Woolly on Instagram, and also there's a link there to their shop, and they're in East London, and the service and the packing and everything from them was absolutely fantastic. So I would highly recommend Wild and Woolly for any yarn you're looking for, particularly for this Bahram U Titus. And it almost felt to me like a free project, because I only had to buy these 2 skeins because the other stuff had been in stash so long. I almost think when yarn's been in stash for a long time that it's like free yarn, because the purchasing part of it is long over and you still have the lovely yarn, so it's nice to get that used up. I'm actually going to pop these all back in the bag. I'm not going to throw it on the floor because the floor is bad enough as it is at the moment. And then we can move on to some giveaway and knit along news. Okay, so first of all, the old and new cowl that we have running in the Ravelry group, and that is the knit along that's running until the end of this year, until the end of 2018. And the old and new cowl basically is old stash, new pattern. So yarn that's been in stash for a while and a new pattern. So my floozy cardigan would be perfect. I mean, it's bending the rule slightly because I've had to buy a couple of new skeins, but essentially the bulk of it is all from yarn from existing stash and a brand new pattern. So it's a really simple idea, and it's just to help us move the stash along a little bit and still enjoy some lovely new designs. Now, the entries for July in the finished object thread were fantastic, as always. You guys don't let me down. And I asked Siri on my phone to pick a post, and he chose post number 7, which is the Ravelry user is VShaw7, and that is Vicky from Vernon in Canada. So congratulations, Vicky. And she knitted some monkey socks in self-striping yarn that she'd had in stash for a while, and they looked fantastic. So congratulations, Vicky. I'll just remind you of your prize. And the prize for the July knit along was kindly donated to the podcast by Simone. So thank you again, Simone. And the prize is this lovely set of mini skeins from Folkestone Harbour Yarn, which is a local dyer to Simone, and she popped in a couple of things from her travels as well, which are super cute. And one was a little cat enamel pin, cat donut, which is super cute, and there's also a really beautiful bookmark that I think she said she got from Malaysia. So I will drop you a message on Ravelry, Vicky, but if you see this in the meantime before I've had chance, please do drop me a message or on Instagram and let me know your details, and I will get your prize posted out to you. So obviously we're already halfway through August, and the finished object thread for the old and new cowl is starting to look really, really good. There's some beautiful things in there, and I have a prize ready, which I will obviously draw once August is done. And it's this lovely skein of yarn from Paper Stories, and there's some really cute little stitch markers on there as well. And this is in her Milky Orbs colourway. So beautiful, very, very soft pink with these lovely bold pinks and purples and oranges. So this will be the prize for the August knit along. Now, the next thing I wanted to just let you know was the Sweet Bee pattern that Jules kindly donated to the podcast as a prize or a giveaway last episode. I did draw for that in between the 2 episodes because I wanted the winner to have a chance to join in with the knit along and not be too far behind. So I did announce it on my Instagram, and also put a little note at the first post in the thread on Ravelry. But for anyone that didn't know, that was won by Gabby from San Jose in California, and she was delighted to receive her pattern from Jules. Now, another knit along that I have got running at the moment is the Newbie Brioche cowl. And it's a little bit quiet at the moment, and I know lots of people are a bit apprehensive about knitting brioche, but that's the whole point of the knit along, just to have a little try, dip your toe into brioche knitting and see how you get on, because I was very pleasantly surprised when I did just that. Now, I have a confession to make. I'm just going to grab my project and then I can start my confession. So it's living in my take along tote that I made. So the tote's about the only good thing about this project at the moment. Yes, I'm doing the Sashui Shrug. I'm doing this pattern by Suzanne Summer. Sashui Shrug, which is brioche and garter stitch, and it's basically a huge shawl with sleeves. So a really, really nice design that you can just throw on over, you know, jeans, leggings, whatever, and just be really comfy and cozy, sort of really unstructured. And I've had so many false starts with this project, it's unbelievable. I've got some beautiful yarn. I did change my mind on the yarn. I was going to use some yarn I bought from dandelion and dogwood as it is now from Amy about a year ago. It was a Find Your Fade kit that I bought, and I went off Find Your Fade and thought I'd use it for this, but now I'm decided it really does need to be a Find Your Fade. So I also had from Unravel earlier this year, I'd bought a kit from Stranded Dye Works from Amy, which was a Timely cardigan kit, which is another Truly Myrtle design by Libby Johnson. But while I was rummaging in stash for something to do this shrug with, I looked at this and thought it would make a beautiful brioche sashui shrug. And I think the colourways go so lovely together. So that one is Shiner, which is one of Amy's sort of signature colourways. The grey sort of with a purple sort of undertone to it. And this one is Heliograph, and they just enhance each other so well. I think they'll be fabulous in brioche. So I got caked up and ready to go, and I'd even gone as far, I was very confident. The pattern, I don't know if you can see here, the designer has put this pop of bright orange in the I think it's an I-cord bind off, and I thought, oh yes, I need to find out which colourway I'm going to put on the bind off. So I had these minis that I bought at Fibre East from Terry at Fine Fish Yarns. So I haven't decided which one of them yet, but I'm thinking that either this one or this one, and they completely change the mood of the yarns. I think I probably would go for that one actually. So that's what I'll use for the, whoops, there it goes. That's what I'll use for the bind off. But I can't even get going. So I cast on, got the sort of setup going, looked at it and thought, that's not right. Ripped it all out again. Started again. That's still not right. Ripped it out again. And yeah, I think it's going to be third time lucky, and I really need to just sit in almost like a sealed room and with no distractions, no Instagram, no podcast, nothing, and just watch the tutorial that Suzanne Summer has put on YouTube for getting this project started. I feel confident that once it is started, that it will be quite easy to read your knitting and read the pattern, and it will be fine, but it's just that getting it started. So I'm going to have another crack at that this afternoon, so wish me luck, because I really want this project, and I really want to do it for my own knit along. So hopefully it will work. I think part of the problem is as well that I've been using my trusty Chiagu needles, which I love for almost everything, but I think because the setup is quite fiddly and the needles are quite slick, I think that's not really helping. So I might switch out to some wooden needles and see if that helps, because I'll be able to control what's going on a little bit better. So that will be my next project, and I really do want to get that one, get it started and just not feel a bit of a failure at the moment, especially since it's my own brioche knit along. So yes, I need to try harder. Okay, I'll move that out of the way. Just have a little sip of just apple juice today. Still quite warm actually. The weather has calmed down considerably here. It's been quite rainy this week, but it seems to be quite humid today, and I've got the fluffy hair, and yeah, feeling a little bit warm this afternoon. The next planned project is also a little mini knit along, and I don't know if you're familiar with Helen Stewart's Curious Handmade Sock Society, but if you are, you'll be familiar with this pattern, and if you're not, these are the Honeybee Dance Socks, which is the latest pattern in the Sock Society, and they are beautiful. Now, I wasn't planning to cast on any more socks just yet, but I'm very luckily going to the Curious Handmade Country House retreat in October, and my lovely friend Amanda, who's Knitting Mummy on Instagram, we were at Fibre East and we were deciding maybe to do a little knit along between us, or sort of among ourselves, for something, you know, a little pre-retreat knit along. And there was lots of toing and froing of things that we might do, and we are very self-aware of our own capabilities, or the reality of how much we'll actually get knit, and whether we will complete a knit along for the retreat. So it started out, it might be a garment, no, definitely not. So it might be a shawl, possibly. Then we decided it would be socks, because if we did socks, we're more than likely going to get them done before the retreat. And if all else fails, if we knit one sock each, we'll still have a pair, even though they're different yarns. So socks it is, and it's going to be the lovely Honeybee dance socks. So I've chosen some yarn. It's not caked up yet, and it's from Lay Family Yarn, and it's in the New Beginnings colourway. It was a sock set. So that's the main skein there, which is beautiful. It's got so many different speckles of blue and green, pink, yellow. It's all going on in there. It's really, really pretty. And the coordinating skein in this soft, almost like a Wedgwood green, I would say. It's very, very pretty, and I think it's going to make stunning socks, because they're quite heavily patterned. The camera's picking it up. There's quite a lot of patterning down the front, so I didn't want anything too busy, but I think with the subtle speckles in that yarn, it will work out really, really well. So I'll be getting those cast on fairly soon. So I'm just going to check my little notes again, because I think we are doing quite well now. I've got a little acquisition to share with you as well, and so excited about this yarn. Now, I know I did have a bit of a splurge at Fibre East, but this is yarn from Candy Shop Yarns, and this is from my beautiful friend Deborah, who's co-host of the Meanwhile at the Castle podcast with her lovely sister Emily. And this is Deborah's new yarn company, which I just love everything that she's doing with it. All the graphics and the theming and the names, but most especially the yarn. It is beautiful. So this sock set is on her Simple Syrup base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And this colourway is Shirley Temple, and isn't it just stunning? Absolutely love it. It's got some deep sort of speckles on the darker part of this sort of like raspberry colour, and then the paler pinks, and right down to the baby pink, and this stunning aqua mini. I think it's beautiful. But when I saw the mohair, I nearly lost my mind. It was just unbelievable. So this is cotton candy, and it really is. This is the perfect colour. It's just like candy floss as we know it in the UK, and it's just stunning. I love it, Deborah. You've really, really created some amazing yarn. I was so excited to receive this. And here's the little card. So you can find Candy Shop Yarns at candyshopyarns.com, and Candy Shop Yarns are also on Instagram, so do have a look. There are some fabulous sock sets. She does gumball minis, which are amazing, and some other colourways of the cotton candy as well, which is just stunning. I love it to bits. So I think that's brought me to the end of the knitting. I was going to share a thought on my Birkin sweater that I knitted previously, colourwork sweater, but I'll do that on the next episode because I forgot to get it out, and I'd like to know your thoughts on a little plan I've got to possibly change it from a knitted from a sweater into a steeked cardie. Obviously it's a completely finished object, but I'll go into that next episode. And I just want to have a little few moments just to share with you my final finished object, which I've been wearing for the episode, which is this linen top. It's blowing out a little bit over here. Yeah, it's just a little linen t-shirt, and this is the Emmeline tee by Little Tailoress Patterns, which is lovely Amy. And I sewed this last weekend. I did share it on Instagram and I got such sweet comments from you all. Thank you very much. I really appreciated that. Yeah, and it's just a fab pattern. It's just a simple tee. There are various, I'll show you the pattern. So I opted for the paper copy because I like, you know, I like to have things to keep in my sash. You can get it as a PDF as well though from Amy's Etsy store, I believe. And there are 3 views to this pattern. So I went for option 1, which has just got the little sort of t-shirt shape with these little cap sort of turned up. I'm not describing it very well, but you can see. So it's just quite a simple design. And then there's also a completely sleeveless one and a version with like a little raglan sleeve, which I think will work really nice in jerseys. I've got some nice grey jersey with a spot on that. I might do that in. And this is a fab pattern. If you are a beginner sewer and you want something that you can do with confidence, it's got really, really good instructions, because Amy also gives you, as well as the actual pattern, which is all here, and it's really nice sturdy paper. I do trace my patterns off though, so that I can keep the pattern intact in case I need to do other sizes or different views or whatever. But there's a booklet in the that comes with it and gives you every sort of every piece of information and instruction that you could possibly need. And she even covers knitting it with sewing it, sorry, with woven fabrics, which I've done with this sort of cotton linen, or with knitted sort of jersey fabrics as well. She gives you all the information that you need. So really, really enjoyed making this. And I used my overlocker for the first time on this project, which I was a bit scared of. It sat on my sewing table for a couple of months, mocking me for not using it. And I finally plucked up the courage to use it. So I overlocked all the seams inside, and I was really, really pleased. And it's sort of given me a little bit of a boost of confidence to my sewing. So I'm hopefully going to do some more. So I'll just try and stand up and show you. So it's just a really simple, I'm too short, but I did add these little sort of side slits here just to make it sit more comfortably with jeans. And it's a simple bias scoop neck. Yeah, and I really like it. It's nice and cool, simple to sew, quite quick to sew. Come back in again. Yeah, so I highly recommend that pattern. I've got some other fabric here that I'm going to make probably exactly the same version of, and this is a very dark navy blue, or is it black? Gosh, I can't tell now. And it's quite a heavy sort of jersey, but it's not a cotton jersey. It's like a, I don't know what you would describe it as, but I really, really like it, and I think it might make quite a smart version of this to wear with black trousers for work. So I think I'll be tackling this next when I do some sewing. And very finally, you may remember last episode I showed you the basket that I bought at Fibre East that I was going to make a lining for. Well, that didn't go very well. I'm going to hold it up now. I have to be careful because it's got a million pins sticking out the side. I don't know if the camera's picking them up, and I'll probably stab myself. But anyway, I had this Liberty fabric that I thought would go really well, and it does. The fabric is not the problem, it's the sewing that's the problem. It's not really, the basket being handmade is not very symmetrical or very even in its construction, and I wanted to try and make the lining fit as well as possible. So I turned it upside down and I tried to make a paper pattern, sort of traced off the base and sort of traced off, made sort of a paper pattern for a front and back to sort of follow the line of the basket shape. I did that, sat there and faffed around making a nice little pocket and popped it inside, and it was way too small, but especially as the basket can sort of open sort of quite wide depending on how much stuff you put in it. So I should have just started again, but what I did, I tried to rescue the situation, and I added 2 sort of like vents, if you like, sort of extra sort of like gussets at each end, at the top and bottom, to try and make it fit. So now it does fit, but it's actually a little bit too big. So I thought I would pin it all round and see how it fits, and it will be fine. And I suppose maybe I'm being a bit too picky. Let me know your thoughts, because in my head it was going to fit perfectly and it was going to look beautiful, and in reality it looks a bit of a pig's ear, and I don't know. I haven't actually, as you can see, I've just held it in place with these sort of quilting pins rather than spend an age trying to sew it through the actual basket itself. And I don't know whether to just take this out and completely start again, but then I don't have enough of this fabric to do that, or to just sew it in and just live with it, imperfections and all, because by the time it's got lots of yarn in it or project bags or whatever, I'm sure it'll be fine. But I think as makers and crafters, we do doubt ourselves, what we're doing sometimes, and you just think, oh, it's not very good. And so let me know what you think. Should I trash it and start again, or should I sew it in and just live with it, imperfections and all? Anyway, I think that's quite enough from me. I've got a sashimi shrug to cast on, so I'm going to say, oh, just drop something on the floor. I'm going to say goodbye to you for now. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. It's been fun as always. I'll look forward to seeing you soon, and if you'd like to subscribe or like the video, that makes me really happy, so please feel free, and then I can see you next time. Thank you. Bye.